Amen. Welcome to the show. Today, I want to talk about how clinginess kills attraction. It's one of the fundamental drivers of nice guys. And as a recovering nice guy, boy, clinginess does kill attraction. When you are a clingy man, you are not going to have the respect of your partner. When you are a clingy man, you are going to be motivated. When you are motivated by need, it makes it hard for a woman to feel attracted to you. 'Cause that neediness sucks all the energy out of the room, and it actually kills the polarity between yourself and the woman. Because when she sees how needy you are, how clingy you are, what she sees is that you don't have the capacity to show up in leadership. What I see when I go out on the dating apps and look around is I see that a lot of women are looking for men who can lead. They'll talk about that. Now, I want to be very clear that there's a very real difference between being clingy and needy and being vulnerable. Because some men will think, okay, well, what I'm really hearing here is that I can't be vulnerable. And that's not it at all. What I'm talking about is the fact that you are basically relying upon someone else to validate you. And when you are on someone else to validate you, it kills your attraction. And I say this as someone who's been a nice guy for way too much in my life, and who's working on this myself. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I have this all figured out, because I am working on it myself. One of the things that I've discovered is that when I've sought validation from other people in my life, it has killed and sucked out the relationship energy, because I've always been seeking that validation from other people. I've been seeking a feeling of neediness. And because I'm looking for validation from someone else, I'm not validating myself. And what I'm really telling them, your value of me is more important than my value of me. Therefore, you can treat me however you want, and I'll accept it and take it. And this is why this is why nice guys feel stepped all over, because they start people pleasing. They start focusing on someone else happy, and they do it to the detriment of themselves, and they're flattening themselves out in the process, because they're losing themselves in that other person. They've pedestaled the person. They've put that other person up above them. What happened is they have killed the sexual chemistry, the romantic attraction, the intimate connection. Because if you pedestal somebody and you put them above you, how can that person possibly respect you? And what you're really doing is you're enabling you. So if somebody starts crossing my boundaries and starts treating me disrespectfully, and I go along with it, I'm essentially telling them it's okay to treat me like shit. It's more important that they're happy after all, right? But life is simply not true. Because the fact of the matter is, your partner isn't happy when they see that you don't respect yourself. They're unhappy. They're going to challenge you more and more and more, and they're going to keep pushing until they see that you have some kind of boundary. And they're going to keep you either end up breaking up with them, or they break up with you, or you push back and you say, enough, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it seems so simple. But what I've observed about both myself and other men who are caught up in this kind of is, we're so afraid of losing somebody. We're so afraid of letting them walk all over us. And yet the irony of all that is that we actually end up losing them. They abandon us. Because at a certain point, they're like, this person has no spine. Why would I want to be with him? I can't trust that he's going to protect me. I can't trust that he's going to show up in his sovereignty. I can't trust that he can take responsibility for himself or be accountable. And I certainly can't trust him because his words and his actions don't match. I've been that man. And what I've come to recognize is that the more I focus on developing my own sense of integrity, my own sense of core values, and the more that I operate from that place, the more I also value and validate myself. And when I am valuing and validating myself, that's when I am giving myself the best possible relationship that I can have. So share that with you because I think it's really important that you recognize what it is that you want for yourself and ask yourself, am I getting it? If you're a guy that's watching this video, chances are you're a nice relationship that is making you happy. Maybe you're single and you're wanting to get into a relationship, but you look back at your past relationships and you see that one of the issues is how clingy you've been. Brother, I get it. When I look back at relationships in particular that I was in, I was a codependent nice guy. And while that wasn't the only thing that killed the relationship, it certainly played a role. The first relationship, the person walked all over me and I mean, most of the time we'd get into some fights and things like that, but I would cave in because I was trying to appease her. Well, the more I tried to appease her, the more she disrespected me. And eventually she was just like went on her way. And it was probably one of the best things that she could have done for me. But what stood out to me about the whole thing is that I was trying so hard to get her to validate me. I was so clingy that it killed the relationship. That was part of it. There were other problems too. And in this last one, I did speak up more. So I'm proud of myself for that. Like I acknowledged that, like, hey, I made some progress here, and yet I had not come nearly far enough to be in that relationship. And I don't know that I would have even been in that relationship if I had gotten as far as where I need to go. And you might wonder, well, Taylor, why should I even listen to you? You're not in a relationship right now. Should I even trust anything you're saying? And hey, maybe you shouldn't, but look at your own life and look at it from the perspective of here's someone with some experience sharing with you kind of the reality of what clinginess does. I wasn't clingy and needy with the much. I did a lot of my own things. I was taking care of myself. I was very active. And I became more active in taking care of myself. Like I actually started growing in a different direction, like because of some of the processes and practices that I was applying. Around this relationship is I was still trying so hard. And really, that didn't work. Nothing I did worked. And the more I kept trying to make that work instead of just accepting what was and just kind of moving on and being kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to do my own thing, the more miserable I made myself. And like when I finally did, when I was kind of like finally like I'm done, I cannot do this anymore. Self like, hey, I actually respect myself again. And I started and part of that was because I was doing all this work around self-validation. I was becoming less and less clingy and less needy. And I realized how that clinginess and neediness was actually keeping me in a relationship good for me. And this is what happens with nice guys. A lot of times we'll cling and we'll hold on to relationships that should have been let go of a long time ago. And it's not because that other person is bad or horrible or anything else. It's just because there's a fundamental incompatibility, right? That's going on here. And if we can't, and don't get me wrong, and even in successful relationships, you're going be a success in a successful relationship, and you're going to have certain areas that are incompatible. But if that incompatibility is a major block, that's when you need to just let go. Wish that person the best, hope that they find what they're looking for, and go back to looking for what you need. When you can walk away from a relationship, that's when you are starting to become less codependent and people pleasing and less clingy, because you're realizing I don't need to be in a relationship that's not for me. And again, this isn't a comment on the other person. This isn't saying the other person isn't healthy. I mean, whatever they are, judge, that's for them. They have to do their own work. I think it's interesting. There was a saying I came across the other day, and I think it's very true and applicable to this here, which is that you start changing yourself when you get tired, or you level up, or you start changing yourself when you get tired of your own bullshit. Well, for me, I got tired of living a life where I was continually not getting my needs and wants met, and essentially it was kind of like, well, whose responsibility is that? That's my responsibility. Ultimately, it's not someone else's responsibility. I mean, I can hope that they want to, but if they don't want to, they don't want to. But then, you know what? I don't need to stay in that relationship either. I don't need to cling in the hopes that something is going to change, because it's not going to change. And the more that I hope it will change, the more I'm doing myself a disservice, and doing a disservice by as well, because I'm keeping them in a situation that is unhealthy and toxic and harmful. I share that with you because I really hope that fundamentally, that if you're in a relationship where you're kind of the nice guy and you're getting stepped all over, you can take a look and step back and either make some changes, like start speaking up for your needs and wants and being honest and transparent, or be able and hopefully like get them, well, not even just hopefully get them met, like actually get them met, because the person you're with says, you know what, I respect that and I want to meet you where you're at. Or if that person say, you know what, okay, I'm willing to say bye bye bye, quoting the NSYNC song, right? Yeah, and move on. Not play these games, because we all deserve our own respective happiness. But the more that we rely upon someone else to make us happy, the more we are being disempowered, and in the process losing ourselves. So I highly recommend that you relax and release yourself from what doesn't work for you. Because the more you hold yourself in a relationship that is not healthy, the more that you cling in the hopes to be validated by this other person, you're already killing that relationship. And if you can start to reorient and take care of yourself and just be honest and real, but at the same time be willing to like walk away, that's when you'll discover whether or not that person is really invested in you, or whether they're using you. And a lot of times when people are using you, they're basically just kind of like, okay, I'm along for the ride as long as it's convenient for me. But once it stops being convenient, then I'll just drop you like a sack of flour. And you don't want to be in that kind of relationship. A relationship of convenience is not a relationship of love, not a relationship of respect. It's a relationship where a person is basically entered into a transaction with you and is taking advantage of you for as long as it's suitable and convenient for them. And when you're people pleasing, they'll stay there for as long as they possibly can, because, hey, guess what? You've made them so important, and they don't respect you for it. They don't respect you for it at all. You've made them so important, and you made them more important than you. And they'll be like, okay, well, I'll stay for that ride because I'll get something out of it. I've been there and I've been there and done that. Have, I have, and what I found is really like when I started valuing myself more, that's when that kind of behavior stopped. But as long as I didn't value myself, it was going to continue. So, look toward yourself. You need to value yourself and take care of yourself. You need to appreciate yourself, because the other person isn't going to give a damn about you. And you don't need to be in that kind of situation. You don't really need a situation where you're hoping that your life is going to transform. that somehow this other person's going to read your mind and understand what you want. They aren't. You have to speak up. And if in speaking up they say, I don't really care and I don't, it's not my responsibility, okay, then it's not my responsibility to satisfy your needs either. If there's no equivalent exchange, if there's no care and concern, if there's no willingness to really show up and go deep in the relationship, then you're just playing in the shallow end of the pool. And you deserve better than that. So if you're a clingy nice guy and you need help, please reach out to me. I do men's coaching, and some of that coaching is around relationship skills, and I can work with you on these kinds of issues. I think it's settle for less in our relationships or the quality of. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe, click the notification bell as well, so you get notified when I go. Take care.